maybe a word from Miss Do. Got a question, feeling blue, or just wanna hear something new? We're sharing thoughts and points of view. The Yapping Corner welcomes you.
Hey, I'm Du, and this is the Yapping Corner. I'm really happy you're here. I don't know why it's been so hard to choose a topic for each episode. I either have too many ideas or none at all. My brain's been a bit all over the place lately. I've been studying like crazy for midterms, which I haven't even finished taking yet. It's been a crazy week. I've been focused on university and work, but I still find time to show this podcast some love. Today, I chose not to choose. So, that's the episode. Bye. Talk soon.
Got your coffee, got your tea, settle in, you and me.
Okay, no, I'll try. I won't just leave you hanging. I will let the words flow, as I used to do when I was younger with pen and paper. And I know I could have just said, hey, let's skip this week. It's fine. But I didn't want to, because the Yapping Corner was never supposed to be a job or a chore. It's supposed to be this little space where I show up exactly as I am, to share my stories, my voice, my weird half thoughts, even when I don't have a clear topic, like today. No pressure, no polished themes, just whatever is sitting on the top of my mind. So, as promised, a rumble with heart. Since my brain is operating on low power today, I'll do something a little different. Instead of giving you a brand new, perfectly polished topic, I'm going to revisit some old thoughts. We're going to time travel back to a very dramatic, wildly introspective version of me and see what she had to say about, well, everything. I'm going to start by reading something I wrote about 6 years ago. Something I never really shared with anyone except my best and only reader ever, my dad, who, by the way, is listening to this podcast with undivided attention, even though he doesn't speak much English, so props to him. So I'm basically recycling an old story today, a very teenager staring out the rainy window story. But I kinda love it, and reading it now brings me back to a version of myself I almost forgot existed. I'll divide this text I wrote into two parts so it's easier to digest. This first part goes like this. This movie is making me feel bored, or maybe I just can't pay attention anymore. My thoughts are wrestling, crashing into each other, and I find myself staring at a fixed point while my fingers play with a loose thread on my shirt. I get up to grab a glass of water, as if that might rinse my mind clean, as if it could wash away the noise, but it doesn't. Now I'm sitting on my bed, my back resting against a cold wall, and I let my thoughts flood in. I try to write down what I'm feeling, but I don't understand it. Maybe all I'll ever write are empty words. But putting those heavy thoughts on paper feels good, like giving them somewhere else to live, outside my head. There's an incredible mess in my mind, but strangely, it doesn't overwhelm me. I kinda like it. This mess walks beside me, lightly, step by step. So I should listen to it, understand it, just open the door, let it pass through, wave at it, and get to know it. Let's call this mess uncertainty. Lately, I've been chased by uncertainty. And no matter how hard I try to ignore it, I think it's time to let it in. Because it's always been there, but this time, it's at a different magnitude. The fact that everything changed in a single second, even my plans, reminds me how momentary life really is. Maybe I shouldn't be afraid of uncertainty. Maybe life is meant to be this way, and growth comes with it. My mistake was thinking anything was permanent. My mistake was clinging too tightly to what felt safe. So I'm going to let uncertainty walk beside me for a while. And when the time comes for it to leave, I'll hug it goodbye with everything I've got. So, yeah, that was 18-year-old me. Pretty dramatic, wildly introspective, and apparently sponsored by the word uncertainty. Let's take a moment to appreciate how I really thought sipping water was going to fix my entire personality. Also, I love how I said, maybe all I'll ever write are empty words, and then proceeded to drop a full philosophical essay about the COVID experience. Okay, Plato, relax. I'm laughing at myself, but I don't cringe when I read this. I think that version of me was doing her best with the tools available to her. And honestly, I still believe a lot of what I wrote. The feeling of being surrounded by uncertainty, still there. The idea that not everything has to be solved, but maybe just heard, still true. If there's one thing I've learned over the last few years, and I still need to remind myself of constantly, is that not knowing is okay. It's more than okay. It's a part of being alive. We live in a world that really glorifies the idea of having a plan, of being certain, having a 5-year timeline color coded and bullet pointed. And if that's your thing, live your truth. But here's mine. Even if you do plan everything to the tiniest detail, life can still shake it all up in a second. The universe doesn't always RSVP to your to-do list. And that's not something to fear, it's something to make peace with. And let's be honest, I'm a structure freak. I'm a color coding, Excel making nerd. But I've also learned that change doesn't affect me. I'll just reorganize because that's my thing. You can spend a great deal of time trying to control every step of the way, thinking that control equals safety. But the truth is, we're all kind of winging it. Some of us are just louder about it. The beauty is, sometimes the best things happen when you stop gripping the wheel so tightly, when you let go of the need to know exactly where you're going, when you just trust yourself to figure it out as you move forward. Of course, things could go as planned, but there's no guarantee, and that's okay, because not having it all figured out doesn't mean you're lost. It just means you're ready for whatever comes your way. You're readier than the organizer. Well, unless the organizer has a chaos planner too. Then you're probably tied. And listen, I say this as someone who is also a freak OCD level planner myself. I love a timeline, a checklist, a highlighter coded to-do list. But every plan needs to come with a quiet disclaimer. This might not happen at all. You have to be ready to let your precious plan burn. Like light a candle and watch it go kind of ready. You've got to make plans knowing full well they might fall apart and be willing to pivot, start over, or just wing it when they do. So repeat after me. It's okay not to have a plan. And it's okay to have a plan go south. Now, my younger self had another profound realization in that dramatic rainy window moment. She started talking about the word ephemeral. Here is part number 2. Ephemeral is a word I used to hear in my thoughts over and over again. One I never paid much attention to. But today, it echoes differently. With a new perspective, that word, so persistent in my mind for months, finally found its place. And this new perspective didn't just give meaning to the echo, it changed everything it touched. For a long time, I avoided listening to my subconscious. But maybe what I was truly afraid of was the limitless consequences of actually hearing it. The thing is, I finally did listen, and I came to a very simple, very strange conclusion. I don't really own anything I think I do. Yeah, that simple. Nothing I have right now, nothing that belongs to me is truly mine forever. Not even my thoughts. Not even this thought. Everything is temporary. Everything passes. Everything changes. Nothing is forever. So I ask myself, why do I cling so tightly to things that are guaranteed to leave? And I'm not just talking about people or objects. I mean everything that exists in my life. Instead, I want to enjoy what brings me joy today, because tomorrow it won't be what it is today. Nothing ever is. And maybe that's not sad. Maybe that's beautiful. Maybe the ephemeral nature of life is what pushes us to actually live it, to find happiness now, to not let the things that aren't going well cloud the things that are. Because just like the good stuff is temporary, the bad stuff is too. Or at the very least, it won't be what it is today. So, what I'm trying to say is the positive side of life deserves your attention. Okay, that's where what I wrote all those years ago ends. Pretty basic stuff that we've all heard before. But honestly, even though I specifically said that my thoughts wouldn't be mine forever, I still agree with that one. I still stand by what I wrote back then. Especially the part about letting go of the things that are already meant to live. Because sometimes we get so caught up in what's not working that we forget to enjoy what is. Like you're stressed about a job that's draining you, but at the same time, your friend is telling you a funny story and you're holding a cup of tea that smells like comfort itself. And yet, you're not even tasting the tea or really listening to your friend because your brain is too busy replaying a meeting from 5 hours ago. Or maybe you're in a beautiful place where you dreamed of being, but your mind is stuck on something that didn't go as planned. And you miss the fact that the sun is doing magic on the horizon right in front of you. The tough parts, they matter, but they are already taking up enough space. We don't have to hand over everything to them. They'll change, they'll pass, and if they don't, you'll grow around them. But those sweet, soft moments that are here now, they are limited too, and they deserve to be fully felt before they disappear. Sometimes it feels like the hard things in life demand all the attention. Like they walk into the room screaming, like the good stuff is just sitting quietly in the corner, hoping you'll notice. So here's your reminder to find your cozy corner and pay attention to the good things. Romanticize the little things if that helps. Make your morning coffee feel like a scene from a movie. Light a candle for absolutely no reason. Put on an outfit that makes you feel cute, even if no one's watching. Take a silly photo of your lunch just because it made you happy. Or don't do any of that. Maybe for you it's writing or dancing or taking walks with the same playlist on repeat. Whatever it is that helps you notice the good, lean into that. Because the tough stuff, they're loud and it's exhausting. And yes, it's real, but it's not everything. Good things are happening at the same time as hard things. And the trick is learning how to let them both exist without letting the hard stuff block your view. You don't have to pretend life is perfect, but you do get to choose where you put your focus. And even if the good moments are short or small or a little silly, they still count. They still matter. Because just like the pain fades, so does the joy. So hold it while it's there. This idea of finding joy in the temporary, in the ephemeral, really hit home for me during a specific time. When I wrote that text, I was in a weird place, emotionally and geographically. The pandemic had just hit, and I was in a completely different country. My flight had been cancelled, and the airline didn't just delay it, they closed their doors. Like, no rescheduling, no helpline, no your call is important to us. Just gone. Everything I had planned shifted overnight. I went from having a whole trip mapped out to being stuck, confused, and kind of panicked. But somehow I was also okay. I had friends I had met along the way. The beach was just 3 blocks away from where I was staying. Not that I was technically allowed to go, but it was there. I had food in the fridge, a roof over my head, and more time alone with my thoughts than I ever imagined possible. It would have been so easy to let the fear and uncertainty take over because it was scary. I missed my family. I didn't know when I'd go home. Everything felt fragile, but I made a conscious choice to focus on what I did have, the good stuff, the small stuff, the stuff that made me feel safe or curious or just plain grateful. In that shift in perspective, that's what turned that crisis into something almost peaceful. This is a story for another day, but when the pandemic first started, I was living in a hostel bar with like 20 other young people from all over the world. We've had a somewhat premium pandemic experience. We were stuck there, sure, but we were having fun. We cooked food from like 15 different countries, swam in the pool, played pool, two very different things, both equally important, did yoga, danced, sang, and laughed. It felt like summer camp for adults, except the world outside was imploding. When people started flying back to their home countries and the group got smaller, I moved to another city with two friends who had rented an apartment. We became friends with literally everyone at the apartment complex, and we started working out together, 8 of us, out in the rooftop or in the hallway. We had dinner parties with homemade pizza, tacos, or pasta. It was chaotic, but wholesome and weirdly beautiful. The pandemic gave some of us unforgettable memories, even as it created havoc around the world. And I don't think that's wrong. I don't think it's selfish to say, yeah, I had some good times. I don't think you need to feel ashamed for enjoying the perks of being stuck at home or for having had a positive experience during a global crisis. Yes, it was a difficult time for many people. Yes, we need empathy. But you don't have to feel intimidated or guilted into sadness. You don't have to apologize for feeling okay. Call me naive, call me self absorbed, but I'll never think it's wrong to find joy, even if others can't at the moment. I'm not saying go be an asshole and ignore what's going on. I'm just saying that from the safety of your home, it's okay to smile, to enjoy the little things, to breathe. Happiness isn't betrayal, it's survival too. So, yeah, maybe that season of my life didn't look like survival in the traditional sense, but that's how it was for some of us. It was survival through connection, through laughter, through dancing on rooftops and eating way too much pasta with strangers who became family. And none of it was planned, none of it was in the itinerary. But that's the whole point. We all lived that moment differently. Some had it way harder than others. But I think most of us remember that feeling, the strange pause, the disconnection, the stillness. And in that stillness, I found this thought. If everything is temporary anyway, maybe we should love it all a little more when it's here, even the pandemic. Now, I'd like to pass the mic to you. Well, not literally, but I'd love to know, what was your stillness moment? Have you also experienced a situation where your plans completely fell apart or changed overnight? What helped you shift your perspective? Maybe it was during the pandemic, maybe it was another moment entirely, one where everything felt uncertain and yet somehow you found something good in it, something weirdly comforting, like a new routine, a favorite snack, a phone call, a song you played on repeat until it became part of your personality. We all have such different lives, but those moments of confusion, of finding joy in the chaos, that's where we connect. That's where the gold is. So don't be shy. What helped you keep going? What made you feel okay, even just for a moment? What do you still hold on to from that time? So speaking of plans, or the lack thereof, I want to chat about this phrase because I think it relates perfectly to this topic. One of my students mentioned this phrase and I just really want to talk about it. You might have heard it before. No wind is favorable for those who don't know where they're going. At first glance, it appears to be solid and no nonsense advice, like something a wise old man or your overly ambitious cousin might say. And I get it. If you don't have a goal, it's hard to focus. You end up floating around, unsure of what to do with the opportunities that come your way because you're not sure which direction you're even trying to go. And while part of me agrees with it, another part of me wants to raise a hand and say, okay, but life's not always that clear. Sometimes we don't know exactly where we're going. Sometimes we're just figuring it out. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Let's start with the part I do agree with. Having a goal, or at least some sense of direction, does help. A lot sometimes. When you know what you're working toward, you can filter your decisions more clearly. You recognize the right opportunities when they come knocking. It's like having a GPS for your energy. You stop wasting time chasing stuff that doesn't serve you and instead focus on what moves you forward. I've felt that clarity at different points in my life. Like when I finally decided what I wanted to study and the kind of work I wanted to do. Suddenly, certain jobs made more sense. I wasn't just saying yes to anything that came along. I was thinking, does this get me closer to where I want to be? And honestly, it felt empowering. But now for the other side of the coin, because there is another version of me that has stumbled into some of the best things in life by not having a clear goal, by just being open, by saying yes to something random because it felt right in the moment, even if it didn't fit into some master plan. Not having a fixed destination can feel scary, but it also creates room for exploration. It means you can try things without putting pressure on the outcome. And sometimes when you don't know where you're going, that's when you're actually the most curious, the most present, and the most adaptable. I mean, some of the biggest life shifts come when you're not looking for them, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say is maybe both can be true. Maybe there are seasons of life when knowing your destination helps guide you, and others where wandering a bit is what helps you find it. Have you heard this phrase before? I'll repeat it for you. No wind is favorable to those who don't know where they're going. How do you interpret it? Do you find it motivating? Does it stress you out a little bit? I would love to know, because advice is weird like that. Something that works wonders for one person might do absolutely nothing on someone else. The trick is to pick and choose what resonates with you. Leave the rest. There is no one-size-fits-all playbook for life. No perfect quote that unlocks all the secrets. However, there are ideas, tools, perspectives, and we each get to determine which ones actually help us move forward. So if you're someone who thrives on structure, goals, 5-year plans, vision boards, amazing. Ride that wind with full intention. But if you're in a phase where you are just taking things day by day, trying different stuff, seeing what fits, you're not lost. You're learning, and sometimes that's precisely what you need. I will leave you with this. Maybe the important thing isn't always knowing exactly where you're going. Maybe it's just being awake enough to notice when the wind changes and brave enough to let it take you somewhere new. Okay, now that is it for today. I mean it this time. Thank you for sticking around and listening to all of this. I know this episode went in a lot of directions, but so does life, right? I'm just trying to keep up. Life doesn't always go as planned. Scratch that. Life almost never goes as planned. And that doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It doesn't mean you're behind or lost or failing. Sometimes the detour is the story. Sometimes not having it all figured out is the exact space you need to grow into something better. And sometimes being okay in the middle of mess is more than enough. We get so used to bracing for impact that we forget to let the good things land too. But if there's one thing this whole episode has been trying to say, is this: you're allowed, and I always say that, I allow you personally to enjoy the good, even when things around you aren't perfect. You're allowed to make plans and let them burn if they need to. Okay, I hope this helped you feel less alone in the not knowing. Maybe you're in your own version of the hostel, or the job crisis, or the what's next phase. Wherever you are, just know you're doing better than you think. This was quite the rumble. But if anything I said resonated, or if you've got your own story where life didn't go as planned but you rolled with it anyway, I would love to hear that. You can message me on pretty much every platform at the Yapping Corner. I'll do my best to check my DMs between exams and snack breaks. I have like 3 followers, so it shouldn't be that hard. You being here means the world. If you enjoy this podcast, maybe share it with a friend who's also winging it. And let's grow this little corner into a space where being lost, soft, strong, grateful, or all of the above is welcome. And remember, you're not totally lost. You're just ready for chaos. Okay, until next time, talk soon.
Got your coffee, got your tea. Settle in, you and me. A little advice, a laugh or two. Maybe a word from Miss Do. Got a question, feeling blue, or just wanna hear something new. We're sharing